Alright guys, let's look at our last solution to the problem of the hidden heel, right? So obviously a lot of people are moving back to 50-50 guard lately, and we're going to look at a way to move back to 50-50 guard from this out of position, which is a great strategy because I think it's probably more unexpected these days. Everyone really understands the battle of hiding the heel, their opponent chasing, and we having this rolling battle, and guys are becoming very, very good at hiding the heel. So obviously when something like that occurs, we have to move it a different direction. And here's a different way to roll to really re-catch the heel and expose and finish from a different position. So it's a great way to deal with that Running Man style skate, right? So let's look at the position we're working from. So obviously we're anticipating this hiding of the heel, right? So as soon as I basically lose this second leg, I want to be reaching underneath their knee. So I want you guys to take a grip that is as deep as possible. So I'm not gripping with my fingers here, if I can. I'm trying to grip with the whole hand. So like a scoop style grip, right? Where I want my second hand to go, and that's a rule always. And that's, I always want my elbow in front of this leg. It's always in front of the leg because it means we know where the leg is even without looking, and we can always pick up the heel. Easy to pick up the heel. It means we're always in front if we were to chase, to secure it. If the elbow's behind, we're way too far behind. We'd have to grab, get our elbow back in front to chase this down. So it's just really our secondary arms, just great positioning, great fundamental heel hook positioning. So we're working from here. So what Isaac's really looking to do is that Running Man style skate. And that's he starts to turn and roll away, right? So what we want to do with our leg positioning here is when Isaac does turn, his left hip is rising off the ground. So as he starts to run, you see his leg comes up, his hip comes up, this whole part of the body comes up. We want to slow that down. So I slow it down by taking my reap out and putting it on his hip. Again, this is like the hip control with our back takes, you know what I mean? When they're turning away, this isn't necessarily to prevent them rolling away. Slow it down, make it more manageable to counter. So when we have these grips and they start to turn, I'm anchoring my foot onto the hip. What I want to do next is a berimbolo roll, a shoulder roll. So you guys at home are probably going to have a bit of trouble understanding this, but that's fine. It took me a bit of time to figure out the different angles we roll here. When we were doing the previous ones, we roll over our elbow and we point our forehead towards the floor, right? For this one, we're rolling across our shoulders. Left shoulder towards them, right shoulder follows. We're tucking our head. We're not going to roll over our neck at all this time. So as they start to turn, we anchor and we start to shoulder roll. As I shoulder roll, my left leg comes in between. So what was floating here, it's going to hook around this way as we roll. And I pull their knee through towards the floor here and gives us an upside down exposure. Usually we catch this heel when their legs are still on this side here. Usually we catch here and their knees come towards the floor. And we've secured our heel hook grip here. I got to keep a tight pinch on my knees here. I could even cross my feet initially. Either way, my right knee is coming into their leg. Because what I wouldn't want is for their knee to slip here. When their knee's outside here, we no longer have a heel hook. I could put some pressure on the ankle, but no pressure on the knee. We've got to have our hips in front. And what typically happens from here is my opponent turns back in to face me. They turn back here, they square up and they try and fight their hands. Or they would reach over and grab my head. And now I can't put hip pressure in, just like we were talking about with basic 50-50 fundamentals. So if we do that again, the way we're going to prevent that is that as they turn, we turn with them. And I get my knee position inside here. So you can see I've drove my knee towards the floor. And my preferred finishing position would be to take the secondary leg past their body, pull my heel to my butt, and start to lift up and apply that inside heel hook, right? So let me just show you the roll independently so you guys can think about it. If you guys are no the only guy, I'm not sure you might have done this. It's more like a berimbolo roll. So we're shoulder rolling. We're tucking our head and rolling over our shoulders. obviously that's going to be a different roll to elbow, knee, knee, and roll through, right? Two different rolls, right? It looks like a difficult, flexible roll, but what you gotta understand is their movement away from you, and your foot on the hip is gonna help you roll through. So we're not just rolling independently. The counter force of them moving away and our foot anchoring in helps us tuck our head and roll. So although you guys might practice this solo at home, practicing that Birimbolo style roll, it's gonna be easier with a live opponent, right? So let's look at it again, right? We've lost this second leg. We're looking to secure under this knee as quickly as possible. My right foot is going to go on the hip. And I'm going to start to shoulder roll as they turn away. I pull that knee and I catch the heel here. I keep my right knee really tight towards the back of their knee so they don't strip it here. If I felt like in this positioning they were trying to fight my feet, I would really try and cross them here. We could finish from here if we applied a little bit of rotational upwards pressure, so not down, but up, elbow to hip and hip forward. But realistically, the second I catch it, usually the momentum, they follow it through. I get my knee to the floor again, secondary leg comes through, hips to the sky, and we get out tight. So we'll look at that from a couple different angles as well. So you'll see from this angle exactly how I catch it upside down. When we roll upside down, we're switching our left leg through the middle to 50-50 and we're exposing the heel. If you do that correctly, what's going to happen is when they're rolling, they're trying to straighten their leg, but we're catching their knee underneath. We're hooking. Our left leg, the underleg, is hooking and rebending the knee. And again, when a knee's bent, the heel's easier to expose and the leg's harder to pull out. So against those guys that want to get out of a heel by turning and just running, what happens in this position is our 50-50 leg hooks and we can expose from here. They feel the pressure, they try and turn back in to fight the hands, but it's too late, right? So we're planting that right foot. You'll see the 50-50 leg here is what helps me bend their knee. Shoulder roll, and we bend their knee to expose. We take our grip, usually they start rolling back through, and we get our finish from the 50-50 position, yeah? So I think that's a really great move, especially in the context of the game people are playing these days, because everyone anticipates the hide the heel in the chase. That's the game everyone plays, and I would say guys are very good at hiding the heel, especially high level guys. They're getting very good at hiding the heel, so we're just going to mix it up. We're going to swing back to 50-50. From that 50-50 position, we do very well with the running man escape, so we're dealing with a very strong leg. We can bend that leg because again, we're bending it underneath. It's hard to keep your leg straight when an anchor swings underneath and bends it all. We expose the heel from 50-50, and again, the 50-50 finishing position isn't weak. We're finishing it like we would from a saddle. Weight on the side, hips to the sky, we'll get a clean break, and they'll be out of range to fight the hands. Alright guys, so let's talk about the 50-50 guard position and sort of what we have to watch out for. How we can attack the position from a standing position, how we can safely stand up, and a grip we can use to really safely stand up. Because obviously tournaments obviously have different rules, and with those rules bring the ability to sweep each other and get to top position. Maybe you just want to be in top position because that's the position you prefer to play, or maybe that's your opponent's vulnerability, maybe his guard isn't very good. So from 50-50 we do want to have the ability to use it as a sweep to stand up with heel hooks, right? So when we're in 50-50 guard, the danger of 50-50 guard, even if I just try to stand up with terrible posture, is he can expose my heel basically by, basically by just turning the knees in. So that would be a very simple way to expose the heel. If I stood up with a bit better posture, where they're able to get my second leg, they can invert under and re-expose the heel from here. So we do have vulnerabilities there too. Or if I were to stand up with better posture and keep my second leg out of range from them to scoop up and attack the inside heel hook. There are other attacks again. So maybe I stand up with good posture. He can turn that into a knee bar or the inside heel hook from this position here. So it's very difficult to stand up safely from 50-50 guard. So when I'm looking to stand up from this position, what I want to do, I want to be mindful of the angle of their knee. We were talking about it in the finishing positions, how if they get their knee to the floor, they're in a great position to start winning this, right? Their knee's safe, our knee's vulnerable, right? So when I'm playing 50-50 and I'm thinking of standing up, I want to be controlling this leg. So I want to be taking a powerful scoop grip and pulling my elbow back towards my hip here. Obviously my foot's hanging there, we'd be protecting it, but just so you guys can see the grip. And what I want to try and do is turn out aggressively, like I'm doing a sort of a kicking motion with my right leg and putting my right foot on the floor. So when we're here, I tuck my left foot and I'm holding this leg up. I want to hold this leg up at all costs because that minimizes their ability to start turning in here. So I'm holding it. Something I want to do, I want to get this hand in between here and reach that far hip. I want to shut their hips down with my inside arm. What I'll do to reach that grip, take a post and walk my knee back and get my hand to the other side of their hip here. So my hand is open on the other side of the hip and I'm turning it to control. And what I want to do is punch the floor. So we face this way, guys. I want to be controlling this far hip here, whether that's a cupping grip or whether it's a fist grip here, but I'm pulling his hip back this way towards me and I'm controlling it and my right leg is straight here. So now if Isaac wants to attack me here, it's very difficult. You see, if he tries to go the knee bar, he can't get his hips on top. If I didn't have this grip, we can get a great knee bar pressure here. So we come back. When I control this far hip here, it gives us the ability to stand up safely. So I want you guys to practice this at home. I want you to see if your opponent can off balance you here. If your weight is too far back this way, they will still knock you over. So when we're up, I'm leaning far away from their hips. So I've got a post with my right foot, my left knee and left foot, and my left hand is on the floor. And we're controlling the position from here. This is a way to secure top position safely here from 50-50. So if your goal was just to step on top, this would be the way to do it. If your opponent is lazy with their right arm here, so if they are not paying attention to what their right arm's doing, potentially we can fall back to our left hip and drag our right leg cross body. So you see my left knee is tucking under their hip. I'm falling back and I'm bringing my right leg past. So from this side of the body to the other side. So we've safely escaped the 50-50 guard from here. We'd have a scramble from this position, but sometimes we catch it with such momentum that we can start looking at the back or maybe just pummeling our foot back inside for our leg drag. We can do this from standing position too. And a great way to take the bait from the standing position is I stand up with my secondary leg. Again, keeping our weight forward, not too far back. I stand up with my secondary leg. And when Isaac reaches for that leg with his second hand, he reaches for my secondary leg, I switch. So again, it's like a long step, right? I'm dropping back to my knee, back to my hip, elbow, and ripping my leg past, fast. Usually in this position, we're vulnerable to the knee bar, again. But this grip is protecting the knee bar because Isaac can't roll his hips over the top. And it gives us the ability to retract our leg. Sometimes coming straight to the back, or sometimes they abandon ship earlier and square back up. Either way, we've either preserved top position or we've established top position. So let's look at those two again. So we're in our 50-50 guard. We're controlling the knee with a scoop grip. I'm holding that as tight to me as possible here. I'm minimizing their chance of getting the knee inside here. I start to extend my 50-50 leg, the inside leg. Tuck my left foot to my butt, the outside leg, and I bring myself up to my knees here. I'm not going to stay square here. I'm vulnerable to attack. Come back. You see, I don't have much control. If I walk my left knee back and turn out, much better control. But again, not as good as if we can control that far hip. So I make a quick transition with my right hand from here to that far hip. And I bunker down with my weight on top of the hips. I've got my right hand hooking the far hip, and I'm stretching them out here. I'm sitting my weight forward. I don't want to sit my weight back, they'll still sweep me here. I sit my weight forward. So again, from here, we could try the long step from here. We don't have any danger of being knee barred because of the hip grip. The hip grip protects against the knee bar, right? So I could drop to my elbow, tuck my knee inside, fall to my hip. I keep my hip grip real tight, my right hip grip real tight. I don't want them to be able to turn over my knee, and we can pull that leg outside. And here with our hip grip, we wanted to encourage the back day, we can lift. And we see back exposure. We can do the same thing from standing as well, right? So we got our hip grip. As we stand, we bring our left leg a little closer to him. We want them to reach it. When they reach it, we put the body back on the floor and we long step. Again, the knee bar risk isn't there because of this hip grip. And if we wanted to encourage the back, we lift their hip and we can chase the back down. So I want you guys to think, if you get put in 50-50 guard, from standing you want to remain on top, we want to be controlling that hip. If you want to secure a top position, safely come up. We're coming up, and again, controlling that hip to prevent their attacks. So what we'll look at next is using the hip grip to take the back from here. And also we can use the hip grip to establish another counter heel hook from this position. So I'll show you the first one, the back take, right? We're doing some form of a berimbolo back take from the standing position. What's key about this position is that we separate the legs from standing. So we're coming up the same way and we're securing that hip grip. If my knee's pointed towards the sky here, I'm still a little vulnerable, so I want to walk it straight. And this is our base position. We're standing up. I'm continuing to hold the hip. I want to stack their hips higher. So if their hips are too low, we're going to walk hand, foot, and we get their legs stacked above their head. Their hips are nice and high above their head as well. My right hand that's covering the far hip switches to my left. So my right hand's controlling the hip, I switch to the left. I take my right hand out and drop my thumb in the back of their knee, and I push their hips towards the floor, and that opens their legs. Come back up. If Isaac's trying to keep his feet closed here, the hip grip and the hand behind the knee strips their legs open. And what we're going to look to do is drop our knee inside the pocket between their chest and their leg here. As I do that, my hand switches to the far hip. And we roll back through like we did with our previous berimbolo attempts from here. We're scissoring our legs again to stack their hips nice and high. Once their hips come up, we come up too. Because again, if I stay low here, Isaac moves to either a leg lock or the reverse half guard. If I stay low, it's a great escape because he comes all the way through the reverse half. And we lose our top position, so we come back. We elevate and we come up. We're controlling the hips so Isaac can't roll away easily. And I pull his hips through to the floor and we can secure our back position. We'll look at that one from a couple of different angles. So we're up top with our hip grip. We're going to stand up with our secondary leg. As we stand up, we want their hips to come high. If their hips are staying low, we're going to hold on tight with the hip grip and start to walk. Again, this would be a vulnerable position if I didn't have the hip grip, because Isaac could attack the knee, or he could attack the saddle position, attack the leg lock. But with the hip grip, we've actually shut down his hip movement. If Isaac's trying to move, very difficult, right? But when we lose this grip, to switch grips, we are going to be vulnerable until we get our next grips. So until we get our right hand, our right thumb below this knee. So as we switch, left hand replaces the right, right thumb comes under the knee here. And we use these two grips to separate the feet. So I push with my right and I lift with my left. And you see Isaac's feet come apart here. My left knee is diving in this gap here. It's going to create a nice wedge. As I do that, my left hand follows the far here. So we're pushing their hips towards the floor and my knee comes in. We roll over the shoulder and underneath them. We scissor our legs here. So as I scissor, his hips start to rise. But I come up, you see he's heading towards this reverse half guard position until I come up and drag his hips forward. Now if he keeps moving that way, he just gives me the back. I can secure the back here. So we'll look at another option from the standing position too. Sometimes when I stand up, something I notice a lot of geek guys do is they'll pummel this secondary foot inside. So let's say we've come up. As I've come up, they've hooked their foot in. So take it out just so we can see the scramble. They bring that foot from outside and inside here. This is going to shut down our back take because this is preventing me bringing this leg in front of this hip here, right? So what we can do to counter this is we can start to pop down and our hand feeds from the hip to the knee. And we can pull it in and pinch our knees together here. So have a look at this angle again. We're here, but they bring this secondary foot inside. So the feet are open here. What I want you to do is still switch to the hip, but reach for the knee instead of the inner hip here. So we're here, we're switching up, controlling the knee, and pulling it in front of our hips here. So we can start securing a heel hook of our own here. Bring our feet inside and pop up to get the tap. So anytime we're standing and our opponent wants to bring a foot inside, like this leg is vulnerable to a heel hook. We can use our right hand to pull the knee in front and sink weight on top to attack the heel hook. Or we can use the near side leg. So we're standing and I bring this in. So we're going to use the near side hand. So we could either scoop or we could use our secondary hand. And that's grabbing in front of the knee. And bringing our knees together here to create a wedge. Expose the heel. Put weight on the heel. And finish the heel hook. So anytime someone brings that in, they're looking to really block the back take. But obviously we can still attack leg locks of our own from that position. Alright guys, so we started with the 50-50 position and we're talking about trying to stand up and using the hip grip for control. And obviously once we were standing, we talked about the back takes and the potential of the pommel to attack heel hooks. But let's talk about the strategy I use to try and expose the heel from the 50-50 position. So when we're playing here, right, what I'm looking to do is really turn inside and try and clear this knee to a safe space. And while it's floating on the hips, I am in danger here. So what I want to do, I want to place my thumb inside the knee here. I want to try and get an inside grip with the thumb. I'm going to take my secondary hand and put it on top of the toes. And this frame here and this frame on the toes are going to give me the ability to switch in. So I try and separate the feet and pull my knee to the floor right. Obviously Isaac's been pretty kind to me here. It might not be one fluent motion, but we're pushing the toes, I'm pushing the ankle out, and I start to pull my knee to the floor here. And once we have these legs separated, I'm gonna try and drag my top foot over, so my leg's gonna drift cross body here. The beauty of bringing this across, right, is my knee's safe while it's on the ground here. If Isaac were to start trying to pull the knee back into a dangerous zone, we've got this secondary leg as a bit of a block. So although my heel on this side potentially looks in danger, if you were to pull it back in, our secondary leg, cross body, is really a counter force here to make it difficult for him to pull this knee back in. So I'm really extending with my right, and I'm trying to turn my hips out and pull my knee back. So it's like a counter force on this leg. From here, I'm trying to keep the legs separated as best I can, and I'm going to try and pop up over the top. And as I do that, my left leg is going to drift cross body here to a much safer area, right? So once we're here, I'm looking to turn up, secure the second leg, and cross my feet over the top. So you see my left foot has gone from the 50-50 to cross body here. Now we've got control over both legs. Our legs are safe, and we're free to start attacking here. Isaac's probably going to recross his feet here, obviously trying to protect this leg from the inside. I would say he would keep the right foot on top, because that's keeping the bottom foot safe here. So we have to start working to separate the feet. And as you do that, I would try and keep control of the second leg. So I would have some form of control here just in case they did bring this leg back and start separating my feet and kick me away with this foot. And start clearing that secondary leg. So I like to control this leg by holding onto it. So now if Isaac's trying to free that leg, it's very difficult. And what we can do, we can start to separate the legs. So obviously again, it's going to take a bit of a battle here, but that's the goal. We're trying to separate these feet here. So I'm trying to push underneath the heel. And once I separate, I can staple my head in between the legs. So obviously, if I went back to trying to dig the heel here, Isaac will cross his feet again, or he'll start kicking and we'll have trouble. So I secure the second leg, I separate, and I put my head to the floor and try and pull this secondary leg up. So now as Isaac's trying to protect his exposed heel here, it's very difficult, right? And we can start to turn back onto our side, pick up the heel, and fall back to attack the legs. As you can see, we land in a position where Isaac's leg that I'm attacking is relatively straight, but again, we know how to bend that leg. We bend it by putting weight onto the heel and bringing our hips towards the sky here. So this is sort of the battle that takes place, right? What can be difficult if we both have the same strategy here, and we both start trying to separate the legs, do the same to me, we both can potentially lose complete contact of each other, and sometimes we escape the position, right? So it can be a bit of a tricky battle, where we're trying to make the space to fight without obviously both pushing ourselves away. So let's look at it from a different angle. So we're here, what I'm trying to do again, trying to get this knee inside safely. So we're taking our thumb and putting it under the outside knee. So our outside hand under the outside knee. We're trying to grip the toes of their outside leg. We're trying to push that away and open their legs as we start turning onto the side here. So you can see I've still got pretty good control over this leg. So once we've separated the legs, my outside leg is going to come cross body. But again, remember, we're not going to do that until we get our inside leg to the floor. So when I was here, I wouldn't open my feet and try and bring it cross body because he's going to attack the heel hook. And because my knee's on top of his hips, we're in danger, right? So once we've opened the legs, I'm going to patiently try and get this knee to the floor. If Isaac's hanging onto it here, we're having a bit of a battle when I'm manipulating my hips to try and secure this knee to the floor. Once it's safe, I can bring this leg cross body. I don't want to bring it too wide because we might lose control over their knee. And that's where we start losing the position, right? So once we're here, I'm trying to really create a wedge behind his knee and drag this leg cross body here. Once I've got that cross body, I feel more free to start coming up on top of them. And my secondary leg's safe again, because if he's trying to pull it back in, we've got our other leg fighting here. We've got another angle to push off. We've got that counter force. So once we've created this angle, we're coming on top and we're allowing our foot, the 50-50 inside foot, to drift cross body. So it's coming up, it's coming over, and we're recrossing our feet to secure the position. I keep my feet pretty tight here, and I really try and sit heavy on their hips. Obviously, in this position, if it's slippery or sweaty and I'm a bit loose, again, he might get his feet out and kick me away. So when we're here, I keep my feet crossed, and I'm really trying to sit on their hips. I control the secondary legs. So now Isaac's trying to move here, trying to escape. Pretty tough. You see I've got 3 points of control on the ground. This pose, my left knee and my right knee. Now we just need to start separating the feet. So to separate the feet, I take my post away, and I put my whole body weight behind this leg. And once I've separated the legs, I plant my head on the floor. Because obviously, if I were to let go of his secondary leg, he could use that leg to start kicking my hands and fighting and making it very difficult for me to attack the inside. So once it's separated, I put my knee to the floor. Now Isaac tries to use that secondary leg to fight, but it's all locked up. And we can start to turn back onto the side and expose this heel. Again, typically we've landed with a pretty straight leg, the leg we're attacking, but we do know how to finish that position, right? We know how to re-bend the leg. We bend it with weight underneath. So I start to sink onto the shoulder and bring my hips towards the sky. So with the 50-50 guard position when we're attacking from, I guess the main thing is we're always trying to work our inside 50-50 leg to a safe position and attack. Not only does that keep us safe, but it also means they're out of range to hand fight and mess with us here. So really I'd say in the modern game of 50-50, that's the real battle here. Who can get dominant inside knee space and expose the heel? Again, sometimes what happens if we're both thinking the same thing, it becomes difficult to create an angle and hang on. But scissoring our legs is going to keep that very tight. Alright guys, so let's talk about the outside heel hook attacking positions. And kind of why I don't really use it in competition. Like for me, I think of the outside heel hook as a bit of a straight ankle lock, right? Like if I've seen my opponent tap to it in the past, then I'm going to attack it. The reason is with a straight ankle lock is that I don't really attack straight ankle locks because you're going to use a lot of energy of trying to apply it. And if they don't tap, then we're fatigued, right? For the outside heel hook, I don't generally like to go for it unless I know it's a clear vulnerability, and that might be that my opponent's tapped to it in the past, because we risk so much going for it. We risk counter leg locks, we risk getting our guard passed, and we also risk getting our back taken most of all. So try and touch on some of those counters that I like to use, and hopefully you guys might see why I don't like to use the outside heel hook so much. But even initially, let's talk about when someone's trying to finish me with an outside heel hook when we're both on our butt. So we'll face this way. So sometimes with the outside heel hook, when Isaac has me in the outside heel hook, and he's got a bit of a bend in the leg, and he's on the tip of his elbow here, this is when I really feel in danger, right? Say Isaac's trying to finish an outside heel hook, and that means trying to read the time on his wrist. He's trying to drag cross body and apply hip pressure, yeah? That's when I feel some pressure on my knee, right? But this is very difficult to get to on people. And say they have this position, but they do not have the heel exposed. A trick we can do to force back exposure here and save us from a lot of pressure is to try and get them to turn so far looking to expose the heel that they end up exposing near their shoulder. And when they do that, if I made someone turn this far, I'll bait them. So I'll keep hiding my heel until, so if I sit upright here, they catch it flush, right? Bad time for me. So I keep hiding by turning the outside of my foot towards the floor. So Isaac's forced to go almost belly down to expose it. Once he's gone belly down, I'm gonna plant my other foot towards the floor. I'm gonna take my thumb inside his armpit here and try and force him to remain belly down. And I'm gonna use these two grips to start to get some elevation here. As I do that, I continue the motion of hiding my heel. So extending the toes and turning my heel inside. And now Isaac's planted on his chest, it becomes much harder to finish. And what I'll do is I'll take the hand that's in the chest once I've created some height, and I'll grab under the near hip here. So our hands come all the way under, and I hold that hip higher. If I'm rotating Isaac's hips this way and it's trapping his belly face down, with his weight on his upper body here, he can't actually do the mechanism of reading the time on his hand. that's all pinned towards the floor. And that means he can only generate hip pressure, but the higher my hips come, the more he exposes himself, right? So I start to lift my hips high and guide my body into the heel hook, and I start to try and keep some weight under his hip here. So as he starts to apply pressure, you'll see I don't feel any pressure at all. All he's got is hip pressure behind my knee, but it's turning in a natural way. And because his elbows are pinned, he can't rotate the heel crossbody. And what that gives us is a nice little heel slip here. And what we can do here to really trap this position down is once the heel slipped, I pull the foot to my butt and I really drive my hips forward and start to flare my knee here. And we get this nice pin. If Isaac lifts this leg up, you'll see the way I'm controlling him here. I wish I knew enough about wrestling to know what this was called, but it looks kind of like a wrestling pin here. So I'm really driving my hips forward and flaring my right knee. And if Isaac's trying to move here, very difficult for him to turn back to face me. And we can start coming around to secure the seatbelt, start looking towards the back. Or we could start really working the pass here, letting his feet out and progressing. So one of the things that makes it very difficult to expose the outside heel hook is, so we'll do it differently, is, so again, a good outside heel hook, Isaac's going to be on the tip of his elbow. He's going to be really dragging the heel crossbody like he's trying to read the thumb on his wrist, and he's going to be applying hip pressure. And I'm going to feel that pressure in the knee and have to tap. Before this point, before he secures it, if I can hide my heel, and when I hide my heel, it means his upper body has to turn further over my foot to expose. If I can hide it in such a way that he ends up being belly down to expose, that means we can counter his heel hook. We can protect ourselves against the pressure, right? So as soon as he goes belly down to expose, again, if we come back, if he exposed when I was here, there's no way I'm going to turn back into him to put him belly down. He's going to finish it. But if we come back so he doesn't have it, he's looking for the heel. I keep hiding. He doesn't get it to his belly down. I stomp my foot to the floor. I plant my thumb under his armpit to try and keep him belly down as I generate some height with my hips here. As soon as we generate some height with our hips, we reach and we switch from the armpit to the hip. Isaac's holding onto that heel real tight, and I hold his hips tight and extend and hide the heel. Isaac tries to apply heel hook pressure. You see, all he's got is hip pressure, and that's not enough to do damage from here. What he would have to do is be able to generate some rotation. But you see, the fact that his hips are higher than his head, and he's trapped on his elbow, shoulder, and hands, there's no way he's going to be able to rotate. He's pinned to the ground. And that means the further we lift the hips, or the harder he applies hip pressure, the more he forces my heel out. And we can pull our foot back to our butt. We can start to drive hip pressure forward and flare our knee to the ground. And we can really get a nice pin here. If Isaac's trying to move, very difficult for him, right? So we've got a really easy back take. Or if our foot starts to clear, we can secure the guard pass. Again, so the principles of that, right? If Isaac's on the tip of his elbow and our butt is basically the same height off the ground, he can start to apply rotational pressure and hip pressure. What that does is going to put a lot of pressure on my knee. But obviously if we land in that outside position and Isaac doesn't have good exposure immediately and he has to keep turning to dig for it, it means he's digging belly down. So by the time he gets it, he's trapped on his shoulder, elbow, and wrist. And if his whole body weight is stuffed up here, there's going to be no rotation. There's only going to be hip pressure. He can't move his upper body. So if we can force him into that zone and get our hips high, we can capitalize and take the back. But again, that's the safest way in that position, I think, to prevent heel hook pressure and progress forward. Alright guys, so let's look at attacking the standing outside position. So obviously initially there we defended and took the back off the double seated sort of outside position, but we'll look at some options to take the back. So two main options I use here when my opponent's got this double outside, this outside position, right? So what I want to do, again, we're always talking about getting our thumb inside. So we'll bring our thumb under the knee and we're going to reach for that far hip. Reach all the way through. So a real scoop grip here. I want to use my grips as like almost like a steering wheel. So I want to rotate Isaac, spin him, and hopefully the force is going to separate his legs, right? So we're coming under here, and we're coming under here. And I really sink some weight in, and we strip and rotate. So you can see the angle I've created here. I'm looking down the hip line, I'm not here. I really want to stack him. Here it could be dangerous for me, but if I can rotate and keep his hips high, this is where I prefer to be, right? And you can see what that does. If Isaac stays there, my knee has come out far from his hips. He's no longer able to get any attachment and hip pressure into my knee. So by using this, we've stripped, and we can keep these grips right. We can do the exact same back take we did from 50-50. What we can do, we got this pocket here for our knee, and we can reach our hand to the far side. So again, we've rotated. I start to let his legs fall to the other side, and I throw my knee inside here. We fall onto our side. We scissor our legs. Again, we're scissoring our legs because we want to stack our opponent. As a refresher, if I fall down here, you can see how far away my opponent's back is. No way to reach it. If I scissor my legs and keep my left foot at my butt, his hips start to elevate. But again, what we've got to be careful here is a mistake I've made many a time, unfortunately, is that I don't want to stay on my shoulder to chase the back. If I extend too hard and stay low, Isaac comes straight to reverse half guard. And we lose it. It's a great defense from him. So when we extend and we get his hips moving, we come up as high as we can. Elbow, hand to reach the back. So we extend, elbow, hand, and we're up here. And now if Isaac's thoughts were that he was going to be attacking the reverse half, and he had that emotion, he just puts himself into back control, and we get his hips to the floor, and we take a nice back control. And my preference here, to take a really secure back, would be to take a far side underhook. So your instinct will be to take a seatbelt here, but I'll be looking for this far side underhook and seatbelt and body triangle here. That's going to be our most secure grip from this position. So let's look at that again. So again, we're following the same principle to the back take we did from 50-50 guard. Rotate like a steering wheel, separate the feet, throw the knee in, invert, stack, and attack the back. So we'll do this angle here, right? So we're standing, right hand under the knee, left hand grabs the far hip. We're going to use a steering wheel type motion to open the legs. So I throw the hip and I extend the leg. I allow his hip to fall towards the floor, and I throw my knee in this pocket here. I'm trying to keep him stacked. Knee comes in the pocket. The hand that was initially on this hip reaches for the far hip. We throw that knee in. We're scissoring our legs to maintain contact. The left knee pulling close to the hip, right leg extending, and we start to sit him up. We sit him up with the extension. My left foot's on the floor. That becomes a post for his hips to rotate around. As I extend, I sit up and reach for this hip. And if they're thinking reverse half guard, obviously they're going to fall straight into our back control but come back. If he stays up here, obviously we now can reach a secure seatbelt and throw the second hook. Alright guys, we'll look at that in real time. Alright guys, let's look at a second option to take the back from the outside standing position. So obviously the first one we went for a bit of a berimbolo style roll, that real leg scissor berimbolo. This time we're going to be looking at entering the crab ride. So this is a very good option as well to defend this position. Really make him second guess, looking to put you in this position. Same grips, right thumb under their knee, left hand grabs the far hip. We rotate to open the leg, but this time I want to pull Isaac back to the floor near me. On the other one, we went hips to the floor this side. This time I again switch my hand to the far hip, but I pull them back to the floor. What I want to do with my right foot is I want to make it so shallow that it becomes a hook like this here. So we're looking to make that a crab right hook. But it's much easier to do that once I get Isaac's hips back to the floor. My right hand is gonna reach deep and grab a scoop grip on his leg. So it's gonna be a real tight grip. It's gonna be an especially deep grip. It's always gonna be easier to scoop up with the whole wrist than just the fingers, especially when it gets slippery. And we're gonna roll over our right shoulder. And you'll see what I do with my left foot. My left foot is a key detail here to help sit my opponent up to take the back. So we've got the hook, we've reached deep, we're rolling through, and I'm extending with my right leg, and my left leg is coming on top of the hip. Some people keep this as a secondary crab hook, but it makes it very difficult to sit someone up. When we drag it to the top hip here, it pulls them up, and I can extend my right hook away, and we seat them up, secure the underhook seatbelt on the far side, and we can fold the body triangle here. Guys, this one looks pretty complicated, but we're just taking a crab hook, we're doing a forward roll, looking away from him. The secondary hook's really gonna axe down into their hip to force them to roll. We wanna sit them up. We wanna get deep behind them and sit them up. It really guarantees the back take. Thumbs coming underneath, grabbing the far hip. We're gonna rotate and steer them. Isaac's trying to keep his legs closed, but when we pop, he opens his legs. So stay here. We're lifting the hip and rolling them past. I pull Isaac's hips back to the floor. I create a crab hook with my right foot. So again, if you guys see, we've got this crab hook here. We're grabbing a deep scoop grip. I roll over my forehead. I extend my right hook and I axe here. So you see these two motions here. This hook, my left foot pulls his hips to the floor. My right foot extends him far enough away that I get a clear purchase on the back. And if you can look at my right foot here, my right knee is turned in and my left foot hooks the shin. So it makes it difficult for Isaac to clear that grip. We come under, we grab this near side underhook, seatbelt, and before I take my right hook out, my left leg goes cross body. And we get a good purchase on the body triangle here. So we'll look at that in real time just to give you a taste of what it looks like. So Isaac's playing outside, we strip the grips, we pull past. And guys, that's a great option if we can enter the crab ride from that outside position. Remember, the difference is we're steering, instead of keeping them stacked, dropping the hips to the far side, we're steering and pulling the hips back to the floor. Single crab ride hook, reach deep, roll, use the secondary foot to sit them up. Alright guys, let's get another way we can take a berimbolo, but this time off a reap. Quite often when we're standing, someone might look to throw an aggressive reap, but if we position our body correctly and we fly the feet, we can turn that into, again, another scissor berimbolo, right? So, quite often when people are playing single leg X, they might really throw an aggressive reap down. And I guess what they're looking to do is secure the heel, roll over their forehead, roll through, and finish this outside heel hook, right? But if we flat these feet, we can use that against it. So when they start throwing a reap, I wanna really push down on that reaping leg and start trying to turn my knee towards the floor. Once we turn our knee towards the floor, I wanna post and get this secondary leg out of the way. And I'm gonna turn back towards their back hip. But what I wanna do, you see my left knee, I wanna thread that inside the hip. And what that's starting to let us do is starting to get that scissor position for the berimbolo. So once my legs are scissored here, we roll over the left shoulder. We're rolling underneath. My legs are applying scissor pressure. Again, left knee to hip. That's going to be the wedge she rotates around. My left foot hits the floor, my right leg starts to extend. what that does, it sits them up. Because remember, if the hips are on the floor, their back's out of sight, it's way too far away. When I start to kick with my right leg, we start to sit them up. But again, just like we did in the previous back takes, I don't stay on my side or I pull into reverse half guard. And we lose this back control. So as soon as we extend, we sit up. And then if Isaac starts looking for that reverse back control, we pull the hip to the floor. So very similar themes to a lot of the back takes we've done today, right? But this time we're forcing it off the reap. If you're so inclined, you could even force them to reap you. You could turn the leg away, clear the secondary leg, post on the floor, rotate back through, scissor the legs, and roll through, right? So this could be something we could force. Again, we're gonna stack him right. So this is the same scissor bolo. Knee to hip, right leg extends, left leg plants on the floor to sit him up. We follow him up. Isaac's looking for that reverse half guard. And we sit him to the floor straight. As soon as I get hit, I'm looking for this near side underhook, far side body triangle, and a seat belt. So again, this could happen anytime someone does a reap, right? If say we ended up both on our butts, and Isaac threw a reap, what I want to do is I want to get my hips high. If I stay low on the ground, he's going to have a very good time putting pressure on my knees. But if I can get my hips high off the ground, I can start to clear my knee. You see my knees coming through. So it's on the near side, potentially in a range that he can apply some hip pressure. Probably not a great angle yet, but if I can clear my knee, and we chuck that knee inside the hip hit, so we get this scissor bolo position, we roll over the left shoulder, underneath them, we're going to scissor our legs, stomp the left foot to the floor, and stomp away with the right. Sit them up, we follow them up, we hold on the hip here so it slows them running away. And also if they were looking for that reverse half guard counter, we can pull them back to the floor before we secure a dominant back control. So again, anytime someone reaps you, if we can fight those feet, we're always going to be extending, fight this foot. We throw in the leg scissor. The leg scissor gives us a bite on the hip, and we always roll towards the feet. Once we have rolled towards the feet, we're going to need to scissor our legs and extend. That's going to sit their hips high. When the hips are off the ground, we can see their back. We can see their back. We're close to getting a seatbelt, and we can start attacking that. But again, you could force the reap. I wouldn't recommend it, but if they did reap you, this would be a great way to counter and make them pay for that decision. Alright guys, so let's look at two ways we can control both legs to expose the heel. The first one we're going to do is a back step, right? So Isaac's on his foot. So let's say we've stepped in with this back step. A good way to think about a back step is always stepping to the opposite side that you want to back step to. Obviously step to the De La Riva, it's hard to back step that in. If I step to the far butt cheek and bump it, we get a good chance of sliding in. So something a lot of people do from this back step, and it definitely used to be a great option, was they'd scoop up the second leg, they'd fall back to that bump, and they would start to look to attack from here, right? But a problem with that is if Isaac's already trying to hide his heel, and I'm trying to pick up the second leg, sometimes as we fall, if I lose that second leg, he's already got a great angle to start running, right? So one way we can minimize that is to actually roll forward and look to control this second leg before we end up in the position. So I'll keep my weight seated on the hip here. Makes it hard for Isaac to run away. And if he did run away from this position, if he did start to turn away, we could potentially start looking to the back, right? But when we're here, what we're gonna do, we're gonna take a scoop grip on this leg, and we're gonna staple our knee to the floor as we do it. So we're gonna take a scoop grip, and we're gonna scoop this bicep up underneath. I cross my feet from here. When I've got my knee over this hip, it's giving me good control over both Isaac's legs, making it hard for him to start turning away. And what I'm gonna do off these two grips, I'm gonna place my head inside here. So I'm gonna scoop, staple, and place my head in here. What I want to do from this position, I don't want to expose the heel yet. I want to roll through and land in a great control position. So my secondary leg, my left leg, the knee that slid behind, is going to push off the floor. So I'm going to push and force Isaac to roll with me. As I do that and he rolls through, I leave that foot on the far side and grab my shin. And you can see what we've been able to do here is we've crisscrossed Isaac's legs. We managed to control both of Isaac's legs with one of my legs and one of my arms. So you see if Isaac tried to run away or turn away here, very difficult for him to even find my feet. I've still got his leg trapped next to my ear here, and we can take our elbow slowly down the shin to start exposing the heel. And you can see the way my left leg's positioned, I'm pulling my knee into Isaac's top leg here, forcing his top knee to point this way, forcing his hips to point this way as well. And what that means is Isaac's ability to hide the heel we want to attack is limited. Very difficult for him. And we can start to slide back and catch it. Once we've secured the heel, we could potentially finish exactly where we are. We let go of that second arm and start to apply hip pressure. Or maybe we secure it and Isaac does start to turn, and then we would finish exactly how we have been all day. Let's look at it. So again, guys, we're looking for this back step. Always going to step crossbody. If I step to the same side, my own leg blocks me, right? So we step crossbody. We're hitting this leg through and back stepping on top. Again, right in the hips here. Keeping top position. If Isaac started to turn away preemptively, we got great pass to the back, right? If he stays on his back here, we want to control this second leg and staple it. If he can keep this leg away from me, his ability to explode is going to be better. So I'm scooping up the leg. I'm placing my left bicep inside and stapling my head through. My right knee is going on top of his second leg. I want to be sitting heavy on this second leg, pinning his hips to the floor. Once we're here and the hips are pinned, you're going to see my left foot is going to push off the ground. So I've crossed them, secured it, and I extend with my left. We start pushing. I'm forcing Isaac to start turning. Keeping control on this second leg. Once we've extended, we keep it on this side of the body, and we secure it with our hand. The hand that was controlling the knee. You guys will see Isaac tries to roll, hide the heel, run away. Very difficult here. And his body is trapped pointing away. And if his hips are turning this way, it's obviously going to be very difficult for him to hide the heel that way. You can see that's about all he's got here. If I was loose with this leg, he could start turning away. If I control this leg and pull my knee into his knee and he starts to hide, very difficult, right? And what we want to do to expose is run our elbow down the shin. Once we catch the toes, expose the heel. We could potentially catch it here. Or if as we catch it, he's really powering away, we want to get some weight behind it and finish on top. So guys, another strategy from the back step is that we're looking to establish double leg control from the back step. We're not falling the way they expect backwards. We're not looking to pick up that second leg and controlling the way people ordinarily have done. We're looking to control it, roll through, and end up with a really tight double leg control in a way that really limits his ability to hide the heel.